Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We have been working up to the point of making screws for the Swan beam drilling machine, and today we're going to actually start the process. First thing I have to do is determine what size thread I want to cut. Then I have to set up the change gears on the lathe, and then get a piece of stock put in there, turn it to size, and then start threading. Sounds simple. Let's get started. I keep this old typewriter stand over here in the shop because it's so easy to work from. It's the right height for an office chair, and it lets me sit down and do some work. Office chair's handy too because it's on wheels and I can just kind of scoot around the shop. First thing I need to do is determine what the original thread is. Just taking a fine wire brush and cleaning the threads so I can use the thread gauge easily. One of you guys asked me why I write everything down. And that's an old habit. Also, rather than just relying on the pictures, which I use, it lets me work with something that the batteries can't run dead on. It's harder to lose, and the pencil's always there when I want it. 20 threads per inch. Taking an average of 3, just to make sure I'm not getting a guess from a stretched set of threads. "20 fits in nice and snug, no gaps. When you're checking a thread, you want to go more than just a couple of threads. I know sometimes there's only just a few to work with, but the further you go, the more likely you are to get a good measurement. It should fit on all the threads for the full length of the thread gauge. This is an 18 threads per inch. And on the first few threads, it'll kind of trick you. It might almost fit, or make you think that it's a little closer to 18 than what it really is. But when you get out the full length of the gauge, you can see it stops matching up. 24 threads per inch goes the other way. It'll fit on 1 thread, 2 threads. You get anything further than that, nope, not going to match up. So you want to try and use as much thread as you can. Okay, we've determined that it's 20 threads per inch. Now we have to check the diameter. You can use a caliper for this. You can eyeball it. You can do anything you want to do. But the closer you are to the actual size of the thread, the better chance you have of copying the thread itself. And in this case, because I'm working with threads that are old and stretched, I can have all kinds of variation in them. First diameter that I get is 0.268. Checking another screw, I get 0.260. .268. .268. I think that's a pretty good sample. .268 would make you think that it's probably a 1/4 This is a screw from a modern part. It's a 1/4, but the outside diameter is .247. Slightly undersized. A little more modern screw. This is .242. That's a 1/4 nut. Spins right on the more modern screw. This is one of the old ones. It'll start, it'll go about half a turn, then it stops. That tells me the thread diameter on the old screws, both from the measurement and the checking against the real world example. The old screw doesn't fit. When I check the tap with the mic, it's .253. Chasing the threads on the screw with the threading die is a bad idea. That's going to make the threads on the screws undersized for the original hole that I have to work with. That's the next step on our testing process, is we're going to get the casting from the original part and verify that size. Interesting prospect. The threads in these holes have been stripped. The last thread in the hole is still good, but somebody over tightened this in the last 80 to 100 years. And even if I were to make a new bolt to go into that hole, it's still not going to work well. So what are my choices? Well, I'm thinking I want to get a helicoil, or as some people call it, a helicoil. So that's the next step. Rather than using the lathe, which I spent all that time building, I'll still use it. I'll have to turn the shafts down and make a new drive shaft for the chuck. Instead of making new bolts, I'm going to helicoil these and take them down to 1/4. And that will make it so that I can put good bolts in there with good threads and they'll hold.